Welcome to that with your help tackles crime head-on, and this morning it's all about deceit. From the latest scams to illegal wildlife smugglers. Coming up, the fake landlord who hoodwinked would-be tenants out of £20,000.
You just keep thinking, how could I be so stupid?
And I'll be behind the scenes at Heathrow's Animal Reception Centre, finding out how the UK Border Force stay one step ahead of the criminals who try to smuggle animals like this into the country.
You're watching Crimewatch Roadshow. Hello and welcome to Crimewatch Roadshow. We're with the police asking for your help to hunt down criminals on your doorstep. Also, on today's programme, pension frauds have led to an estimated £600 million being lost to scams.
It feels distraught, really, to think that I've put all that money into it. I've just been scammed and I've lost a lot of money.
We'll tell you how to avoid being the next victim. And a mother's worst nightmare. An attacker targets a schoolgirl, not once, but twice.
What type of person comes back? She stopped smiling. She just stopped functioning as the daughter I know.
Today we're with the Metropolitan Police and Sian is in an animal reception centre at Heathrow.
Rav, kitten or crocodile, this centre has to be ready to deal with any creature that comes into the country by plane, legal or otherwise. I'll be getting a behind-the-scenes look at the work they do here.
Sounds good, thank you, Sian. But first up, a cautionary tale for any would-be tenant. A flat in fashionable North London at a reasonable rate is like gold dust. So when volunteer Anne-Catherine from France started looking for a marital home, she knew she would have her work cut out.
It's a very competitive market, I would say, especially in London. It's just crazy.
With her wedding day looming, the pressure was on.
I was on my own here because he was still in France working. So it was my mission, basically, to find where to live.
Anne-Catherine found a website which put would-be tenants directly in touch with landlords, cutting out agency fees. And it wasn't long before she struck gold.
It was an ex-council flat, but it was very clean and tidy. The price was about 1,100 a month. Maybe I was a bit naive, but I thought it was plausible and it was a good deal, actually.
Anne-Catherine rang a man called Mustafa, who she thought was the landlord, and arranged a viewing.
When I had this viewing, I could confirm it was just perfect. So I was like, okay, I love this flat. It's exactly what I was looking for, so what can I do to secure it?
Anne-Catherine agreed to pay 3 months' rent in advance, plus another month's deposit, almost £4,500 in cash.
You don't feel, in a position of strength, I would say. You know that if you don't agree this and this and this, someone else will get this flat.
2 days later, she met Mustafa to collect the keys and contract to her new home.
I felt a bit nervous, it was the day I had to give him so much money.
Mustafa didn't have the right paperwork, but although she was uneasy, Anne-Catherine felt she had to see it through.
I felt a bit, more and more under pressure at that moment.
But she was reassured when Mustafa agreed to go with her to the bank to collect the cash.
I felt so relieved, everything finally went well. He had his money, I had the keys, they were working. So it's over.
And a few days later, Anne-Catherine enlisted the help of a friend to move into the flat she was so proud of securing. But her dreams were shattered when a sign on the door revealed the flat had been used as part of a scam. Anne-Catherine had been defrauded out of almost £4,500. Even worse, she and her fiancé still had nowhere to live after their wedding.
I just thought I had found the perfect nest for me and my husband after the wedding, but finally it turned out that Yeah, I ended up on the friend's sofa. That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
The fraudster had never owned the flat, just rented it for a single week. Posing as the landlord, he had fooled Anne-Catherine out of her deposit. And she wasn't the only one. In just 7 days, he had conned a total of 12 victims out of over £20,000.
It's a very common rental scam. What they deliberately do is they will put an advert in with a very competitive rate so they can get lots of interest and get lots of emails, lots of inquiries and ultimately lots of victims.
But although he was clever, the scammer had made one serious mistake.
He normally meets the tenants away from CCTVs, very cautious, very aware of what areas to meet that don't have CCTV.
But this time, he had gone with Anne-Catherine to the bank, where his face was caught on camera. Now Anne-Catherine's only hope is that the man who did this to her will be brought to justice.
How can he cheat, on so many people? I mean, I think it's just crazy. I felt frustrated and, of course, anxious. You feel you've lost some of your self-confidence. You just keep thinking, how could I be so stupid?
Well, if you recognise that fake landlord, do call us using the numbers on screen now. I'm joined by Stephen Proffitt from Action Fraud, who can tell us more about these rental scams. Good morning, Stephen. So,
Good morning.
How common is this sort of thing?
Well, we're recording about 300 reports a month at the moment.
OK, well, obviously that's 300 too many. So
Yes.
How can people protect themselves?
Well, Anne-Catherine, you saw there, did quite a lot that we would advise to do, but she could have asked some more detailed questions within the flat, particularly asked to see paperwork like utility bills and also the safety certificates, and maybe asked him to prove his identity. But what she definitely could have done is not being pressurised into handing over a large sum of cash as a deposit and definitely not be taken down to a bank to pay it in immediately. You should always ask for the bank details and transfer the money to that bank after the viewing. That gives you time to reflect and look at what you've seen within the flat.
OK, very good advice there, Stephen. Thank you. And if you've been the victim of this type or any other type of fraud, you can actually call Action Fraud on 0300 123 2040. And Stephen, you're going to be back with us later on, aren't you, to talk about pension scams and how to avoid them. So if you've got a pension, you won't want to miss that. Sian.
Now, this animal reception centre is virtually like passport control for pets, isn't it?
Yes.
This is Tristan Bradfield, who helps run the centre. It's more like zoo-like than customs, really.
Oh, it is, yes. We've got a Yemen's chameleon in there. We've got an Egyptian Eurymastix lizard in there, hiding underneath the bark.
Oh, yes.
They live in deserts. And we've got these bearded dragons in here, which have been here for some time.
Look at that one opening its mouth there. Do you think it's hungry?
Yes, I think it is. It's breakfast time, so it's feeding time. So I'm going to feed them. We feed them with these locusts.
Oh, right, so that's breakfast.
That's food, yes.
Right.
They also get other items of food as well, but they do like the locusts. So I'm going to open it up.
OK.
And it'll probably come down.
Oh, yeah, here it comes. Let's hope it
Very
doesn't jump
interested.
out.
It's going to make its way down.
And it's sizing it up. Well, they're both after it. There we are.
There you
Well,
go, the
one went
female's
down
straight
quickly.
in on that one. I should probably take it by hand. There you go.
Very hungry. Well, while they enjoy breakfast, shall we go and see some of the other creatures that you've got in here? Yep, best wise
Yes,
to close that,
close the
isn't
door.
it? Let's head out then down here because so many different varieties of species that you have in the centre, and they've all got different stories, haven't they?
They have,
Tell us
yes.
about this one.
This one here is a snapping turtle.
Right.
This was brought into us by a member of the public. It was found wandering on the street. These can be legally imported in for the pet trade, but they come in very small, about the size of a 50p piece, and then they grow quite rapidly. When they get a bit larger, they are then more difficult to look after, and they become quite aggressive as well. So people tend to release them into the wild in the UK, and it's an offence to release these animals into the wild.
OK, so this one came in legally, but then obviously shouldn't have been released as it was. We're going to hear more about these animals later in the programme. It's absolutely fascinating, Rav. Come back to us and we'll have more things to show you.
Yeah, look forward to that. Still to come, On today's show, the fake policemen who made a woman question the real thing.
I don't know which one policeman is the real one.
It's okay now. You're obviously safe now. The real police are there, okay?
And on the case of the thieves who like more than just a tipple, they got away with £80,000 worth of this wine from an English vineyard.
Now, wildlife crime sees thousands of animals being killed or captured to supply the exotic pet trade. So we spent the day with a Border Force team to see what they do to crack down on this problem.
Heathrow is one of the world's busiest airports, handling 250,000 passengers every single day. But it's not just people that come through the gates. Last year alone, 200 million animals flew into Heathrow. But not all the wildlife that enters the UK does so lawfully. The illegal trade of endangered species is estimated to be worth £11.6 billion a year. To combat this, the UK Border Force has a dedicated team based at Heathrow Airport, led by Grant Miller.
For a lot of the species, it's now at tipping point. You know, we have to do something now to protect them and really put all our efforts into it.
Last year alone, Border Force officers seized more than 1,200 live animals and 60 kilos of ivory.
This is what the illegal wildlife trade looks like in its reality. This is the cost, and each of the items we've got here comes from an animal that I'm sure you would agree would be better to still be alive. But it really is, we'll kill anything. Ivory is critically important to us. We're losing an elephant to poaching about every 15 minutes currently, so critically endangered. We've got rhino horn here. We lose a rhino in the wild to poaching again about every 7 hours. What we've got here is a rhino horn that was seized. It was found coming in from South Africa and was concealed in a plaster cast of a Spanish lady. Put it through an X-ray and the horn showed up. But you're looking probably at a sizable amount of money that would be worth, and that would be going out ultimately to China, Vietnam, to fuel the demand for rhino horn in those areas.
Some of the products used in traditional Chinese medicine contain endangered species or are derived from badly treated animals.
But that's bear bile there, and we had 100 of these vials coming into Terminal 1 from a flight from Hong Kong. They're kept in a very, very small cage, a tap's inserted, and then the bile is drawn off. So the bear doesn't die, but in effect it's tortured for its bile. Got my keys.
A call has just come into the office about a worrying shipment of tortoises, and it's time for Grant to spring into action.
The tortoises have come in on our flight from Uzbekistan, so we'll take a little look at those. The paperwork, everything is there. You're looking at a part consignment of horsefields that came in from Tashkent in Uzbekistan. We've got concerns around the import permit. So what's happening now is that the wildlife inspector is just doing a health check on them. We'll be looking at the number of tortoises that are present and making sure that it ties up with a commercial invoice.
Got 30 of them, vary in size a bit, but looking at the growth rings, they're all about the same sort of age.
Well, in a pet shop, you're probably looking at these would retail in excess of £100, you know, so yeah, they've got about 400 tortoises there, so it is a valuable shipment.
For some of the tortoises, the long journey has taken its toll.
It is compliant with the rules and the regulations. It's just an unfortunate hazard of the reptile trade. You know, an occupational hazard, albeit it's not good for the animal.
But Grant is also worried that the tortoises don't have the required licence.
In this instance, it was the import permits aren't valid, so this consignment will be seized. So it's just a case of getting them into a suitable facility that we'll build up here with food, water and, importantly, heat lamps, because they do like a warm climate. I think it's similar human greed. People aspire to have things that they want, and too many people aren't interested in the fact that the animals are endangered.
Well, I'm with Grant Miller, who we saw in the film there, and some of the tortoises. This particular one looks very cute. He's popped out to say hello there. What's going to happen to them now, Grant?
Well, these are now formally seized, so they become Crown property. So the Queen has no idea the number of animals that she actually owns. We will be rehoming them, taking scientific advice so that they're actually rehomed where we can add value to the conservation of the species. So, yeah, they will have a good future.
That's good to hear. And it's really worthwhile we mentioning why we're wearing these blue coats, actually, because we're in the quarantine section of the centre now. The other part where we were earlier, obviously we didn't need to wear these blue jackets. Obviously, it's all for the safety of the animals and our own safety. Yep. Let's go and have a look at what else is here, because obviously you're protecting animals. That's what you want to do. But there is this huge demand, isn't there, for exotic pets?
The illegal wildlife trade is fuelled by greed. It's people wanting what they can't have, and we had an incident last year, San Salvador rocket iguanas, 13 of them in a suitcase at Heathrow, out of a population of a couple of hundred, smuggled from the Bahamas. Pure greed, pure organised crime, and high-end criminals that are targeting some of nature's absolute gems for their own personal gain.
Absolutely. Grant, thanks very much. Well, let's go and see who we've got in here then with Tristan. Who's your friend, Tristan?
This is Dave. He's a white-throated monitor, part of a seizure from a short while ago. He came in a bag that was too small, so the packing wasn't correct. So there was a welfare issue there. And because it was in breach of the regulations, it also invalidates the endangered species permit. So he was seized with a group of other lizards. He's grown a bit since then, as you can see, and we now use them for training purposes. So
can you show me sort of what you would be doing? Because obviously it's with officers from the Met that you would use as a demo.
From the Met Police, also Border Force, and also local authority staff. So we'd come in and show them how to catch them up. They can use this tail for whipping, and this one sometimes will puff itself up and whip with its tail. It's quite large, as you can see as well, but we show them how to pick them up properly, supporting the weight of the animal. There we go.
So
as
like
you can see, it's whipping its tail round, so I'll tuck it underneath my arm there somewhere.
And, so vital for officers who may come across one of these in somebody's house.
Yes, they could do. There's many species similar to this. Some are more aggressive than others, so this is one way of handling them, but certain other species have to be restrained more.
And of course you'll work with the Border Force unit here. It's a partnership approach, I know, using all the skills. Thank you very much for showing us how it's done this morning. Rav, I think you'll agree, quite a beast there.
Absolutely. Now it's time to take a look at today's CCTV, and just so you know, it's a pretty nasty batch. A crowd loiters outside a pub in Middleton, near Rochdale, in the early hours. Keep your eye on the reveller in the black hooded top, patterned t-shirt and white trainers. After a while, he moves to the edge of the group, but what he does next is bang out of order. He swings a right hook and decks one of the men. The man's head hits the railings on the way down. Bystanders help him, while the attacker takes his time escaping down a subway towards Lodge Street. That single punch broke the victim's jaw and could have been even worse. We need to know this thug's name. I have a bad feeling about this hooded shopper. And so do the staff, especially when he produces a gun. He takes out a plastic bag and orders them to open the tills. A member of staff begins keying in the code. The gunman is impatient and points the weapon at his head. Meanwhile, he tells another cashier to fill the bag with cigarettes. Finally, the till is open and the robber helps himself, but the other two tills are empty. He's had enough of this caper and warns the assistant not to tell the old bill. Then he legs it out with £900 worth of cash and cigarettes. Detectives say the gun is likely to be fake, but the staff's ordeal was very real. They need your help to ID this dangerous individual. This masked man is armed and dangerous. He swings what looks like a samurai sword in a Burnley bookies, and the staff run for their lives, but only one escapes. Alone, the female cashier watches in horror as he wields the sword again. Now he demands cash, and she hands over 170 quid from the till. Notice the white glove on his right hand. Then he dashes out, and we spy a distinctive logo on his grey hoodie. Have a butcher's at this scary swordsman and get in touch. If you recognise any of that lot there, make sure you pick up the phone. You can call us on 08000 468 999. Calls are free from most landlines. Some network and mobile operators will charge for these calls. Or you can text us on 63399. Text CW space and then your message. Text will be charged at your standard message rate. Of course, you can email us too. The address cwr@bbc.co.uk. Next, a mother left powerless to protect her daughter on the way home from school.
When I opened the door, she just flew in and she was hysterical. The effect it's had on my daughter, I think you don't get over.
Wandsworth Common is a shortcut for many teenagers on their way home from school. But one November afternoon at twilight, the path of a 15-year-old girl was blocked by a man.
Suddenly, she was approached by this much taller guy, and he asked for her phone, and she just stopped.
The teenager didn't have her phone, but was too scared to respond, so the man grabbed her by the arm. As his jacket opened, the victim saw he was carrying a large knife.
We've told her so many times, you know, what to do if something like that happens, to scream, to shout, to kick, to do anything. But actually, when it comes to it, I think you just utterly freeze.
The mugger hadn't got what he wanted, but he retained a tight grip on the victim's arm. Luckily, at that moment, the stalemate was broken by a passerby. The attacker fled back into the bushes and the girl ran home.
I heard a really frantic knocking on the door because she didn't have her keys. And when I opened the door, she just flew in and she was hysterical. She was crying. I sat her down, tried to calm her down, and I called the police straight away.
The incident was reported almost straight away. Officers responded and took her for a drive round the area to try and find her assailant, her attacker, but unfortunately wasn't found.
In a way, I suppose we felt quite lucky, if that doesn't sound strange to say it, but it could have been so much worse.
As a precaution, the family made sure that the schoolgirl didn't walk home alone from then on. Things slowly returned to normal.
Well, it was December the 1st, and I remember that morning she'd woken up and said to me, "I'm so happy it's not November anymore because I can begin to really put this behind me now. It's a different month."
That evening, the teenager attended an after-school sports event. Afterwards, she'd arranged to meet her mother to get a lift home.
Either I was just passing by, had passed by, was about to pass by, so the timing was quite tight, really.
Suddenly, she was grabbed from behind, a hand clamped across her mouth, and she was dragged off the path.
She knew that it was the man from the first attack because the first thing he said to her was, "Why did you have to call the police the first time?"
Instinctively, the girl bit hard on the man's fingers and he let go.
He then punched her in the cheek and she fell backwards against a tree.
She suddenly found herself in a headlock whilst the man attacked her with a blade.
And he slashed at her about 8 times. And somehow she managed to get away.
Still bleeding from her wounds, she managed to escape.
When she said it was the same person, I just was incredulous. I just thought, what type of person comes back and teaches her a lesson? And in fact, when he finished slashing her, he actually said sorry.
Obviously, the fact that this individual is going out with a knife and committing these attacks, and on this occasion was prepared to make use of it, is very alarming. The level of violence is clearly escalated from what happened first time. It's a very rare incident, but we would like to catch this individual.
The effect on the teenager has been profound.
She stopped eating and she stopped sleeping. and she's always been a really, really happy girl. And she stopped smiling, she just stopped functioning as the daughter I know.
The schoolgirl's been left with scarring on her side and a hairline fracture to her cheek where she was punched.
But what I really can't understand is him coming back with the retaliation. I really would like him to understand that those few seconds have had such an effect for months now.
And I'm joined now by DI Gerard Frayne,
it's gone away, and in fact, it is still there.
She was followed, do you think, because it happened not just once, but twice?
I'm keeping an open mind. We don't know if she was singled out and targeted.
Oh, let me just stop you there and introduce you to DI Gerard Frayne, who's leading this investigation. Obviously, we want to catch this person.
Yes.
It was a very frightening attack that happened not just once, but twice. I mean, do you think the victim was being followed?
I'm keeping an open mind. I don't know if she was singled out and followed or if it was just a chance occurrence, so I'm keeping an open mind on that.
OK, well, there was a weapon that was used on both occasions. What can you tell us about that?
First, on the first occasion, we know that the suspect had a black-handled knife, like a kitchen knife. On the second occasion, a knife was actually used. We think that was probably something similar to a razor blade or a craft knife.
So what about the description of this man, then?
It's a 16 to 19-year-old black male with a goatee beard, about 6 foot tall and slim. He was wearing a black jacket with a black hooded jacket, blue jeans and a chain for a belt.
OK, so what are you appealing for today?
We're looking for anybody who has any information on this offence at all to come forward and to make contact with us. We'd obviously like to catch this individual.
Absolutely. And, of course, the victim's mum very worried. But we should stress, shouldn't we, this is a very rare case.
Yes, it's a very unusual incident. We'd certainly like to catch this man.
OK, thanks very much. And if you can help, you know what to do. Get in touch with us on the usual numbers.
Now, we're looking at deception in the programme today, and this one could affect all of us who have a pension. The rules around getting access to your pension have changed, and some worry fraudsters are taking advantage of it. Stephen Proffitt from Action Fraud is back with me again to explain more. But first, let's hear from Graham and his daughter April. He invested £100,000 of his pension, but hasn't heard from the company since.
I feel distraught, really, to think that I've put all that money into it for 24 and a half years, and feels that I've just been scammed and I've lost a lot of money.
The possibility of not being able to retire as soon as he may have liked, it's added more of a strain to him, and it's made him half the man he used to be. As such, sometimes I look at him and I think it's difficult to look at him and not recognise him sometimes.
I mean, it's just unbelievable, Stephen. And with the rules changing, you're worried we're going to see a lot more of this type of thing.
Yes, we are. There's more opportunity for fraudsters to take your pension from you with the new rules. You can take a tax-free lump sum of 25%, and then obviously you're looking to invest that. That's another opportunity for fraud. So we would say make sure that any investment you do, the companies you're investing with are registered with the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA.
Because that's good advice, because there are some ways that people are getting contacted which you would say absolutely avoid at all costs, things like text messaging.
Yes, text messaging and cold calling. A significant number of our victims of this are cold called. You are making life-changing decisions about a significant sum of money. You do not have to do it on the spur of the moment. Always seek independent financial advice before making a decision about your pension, because once you've moved it, it's gone. You cannot put it back again. So independent financial advice is what you should be undertaking. Don't do it on the spur of the moment.
OK, great advice, Stephen. Thank you. And if you need some advice on your pension, you can speak to the Pension Advisory Service. Details of that are on our website. Sean.
Next, how answering the door late at night to 2 police officers led to a terrifying ordeal.
I'm scared of opening the door.
I don't know which one policeman is the real one.
It's okay now. You're safe now. The real police are there, okay?
Okay.
Central London's Chinatown is a tourist hotspot. But for Sally Huang, it's a workplace. She handles the takings and payroll at 2 busy restaurants. After cashing up one Sunday evening last August, Sally headed home with £6,000 in cash to do the payroll. she finished up dividing the wages and then packed up for the night. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she had some unexpected visitors.
Sally Kwan, open up, police.
I feel quite strange because I don't understand why so late like policemen knock at my door straight away and know my name, actually.
The officers told Sally she was under investigation for tax fraud and showed her a police warrant to search her flat.
Sally's Chinese national and her English isn't fantastic, so believing that she's confronted by two police officers in uniform holding what she believes to be a warrant allows them access to her flat. It's at that point that things start going very wrong.
They handcuff my hands and tell me to sit down. They just ask me, where's the money?
The intruders seemed to know that Sally might have takings at home.
You work in the restaurant, you got the money from the restaurant.
Sally was left powerless whilst the intruders ransacked the flat.
I just crying at that time, and I can't, like, thinking anything.
As the search continues, the threats towards Sally become increasingly more violent. A knife is placed against her throat on a number of occasions.
I feel scared. I just feel scared.
She is threatened with death. They'll cut her throat and she'll never see her friends and family again.
She was left in fear of her life whilst the robbers uncovered the £6,000 worth of takings. But the two aggressors wanted more.
Sally's described feeling absolute terror, real sense of fear.
The men seemed to be under instruction from a caller on their mobile during the search.
Someone's on the phone with him. Keep tell him I got the safe at home.
Where's the safe, huh? Where's the safe?
They insist on the safe. I say no, I don't have any safe.
Whilst continuing to rummage through her belongings, the intruders found Sally's diamond jewellery and a letter from the hospital.
The letter say I got appointment tomorrow for the baby, and then he know I'm pregnant.
Even the knowledge that Sally was 12 weeks pregnant didn't put an end to the threats of violence.
You put the knife into my belly, say, just threaten me, tell me where's the safe, otherwise your baby get hurt. I keep crying, just begging him not hurt my baby.
Finally persuaded there was no safe, the pair left with their haul using Sally's handbag.
When they left the property, they threatened me not to call the police, otherwise, like, he know where I work, where I live.
Despite the threats, Sally mustered up the courage to call 999.
Hello, police sir. How may I help you?
Hello, I just got robbery from someone protected me, the police officer. They searched my flat and then robbed my flat. I scared to open the door.
No, everything's okay now. You're safe now. The real police are there, okay?
Okay.
It's the police.
When the real police come in, they are in the same uniform. Actually, I still not trust them. But one of the policemen should just say, calm down, I'm the real policeman.
It must be a worst nightmare for someone threatened with such violence.
The crime has left Sally traumatised.
Nightmares, couldn't sleep very well, properly, like you scared sometimes because I changed all the locks.
This shows to me that these people have really done their research about Sally, her movements, and done their homework about how much money they're going to get, where the money comes from, and how best to go about doing it. And I think they are very, very calculated individuals, and they need to be found, and we need to stop them.
Well, I'm joined now by DC Andrew Deemer. First of all, Andrew, how is Sally now?
Since the incident, she's doing really well. She's had a little baby girl, and both mum and baby are doing very well.
Well, we're really pleased to hear that, because there could have been a different outcome here.
Absolutely. It was a very traumatic incident and could have had a real lasting repercussion for Sally, but she's managed to get over it quite well.
Yeah, they were vicious attackers who were also very convincing, and they seemed to know a lot about her.
They did. They seemed to know, where she lived. They were able to talk to her, converse with her. They were dressed, obviously, in fake police uniforms, which were convincing enough to get through the front door. And certainly put her off, and then obviously, as you know, the attack took place, and it's quite a prolonged attack on her.
Indeed. Let's get to the descriptions then, because you've got an e-fit of one of them, haven't you?
We have, yeah. The e-fit is the main guy, the guy called Danny, as you'll see. He's got blonde hair, blonde spiky hair. There is a second outstanding suspect. He's a white male, slightly older, about 28 years old, a little bit taller, stocky build. He's got short, dark hair, which is slightly greying. And again, we'd like any information on either of these two males.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And worth saying that Sally does not keep a safe or any valuables at home.
Now it's time to have a look at today's wanted faces. Police forces around the country are asking for your help to find these people. And first up today is this man. This is Phineas Ambrose Float. Sussex police want to speak to him after a man was glassed in a vicious attack in a nightclub. The victim suffered serious cuts to his face and was left scarred for life. Keep an eye out for him if you're in the Brighton or Hastings areas of Sussex. Now have a close look at this woman. This is Alison Joyner, and she's wanted by police in Warwickshire in connection with fraud offences totalling more than £500,000. 49-year-old Joyner is 5'6" tall with a large build. She was last seen in Blackpool in May 2014 and has links to the Exeter and Bristol areas. Or do you know the whereabouts of this guy? This is Thomas Suster. Police in Cambridge are looking for him after a car was stolen and then involved in a crash. Suster sometimes uses the middle name of Darius. He's got links to Peterborough and Poland. And last up today we have this man. This is Victor Lakatosh. He's wanted for questioning by West Yorkshire Police after an 89-year-old man was attacked and robbed on his own driveway. The victim's injuries were so severe that he was in intensive care for a number of days. Lakatosh is 41 and has links to the Leeds, Keighley and Bradford areas. So, if you recognise any of these faces, make sure you call the numbers on your screen, or if you prefer to be anonymous, you can call Crime Stoppers. They're on 0800 555 111.
Now, one of the most common items seized by the Border Force is ivory, but it's very difficult to detect. And that's where Marley here comes in with trainer Jane Sharp.
Hi.
Hello there. Lovely to see Marley. I know that he's a fantastic dog. He's been trained really well in this, hasn't he? What's he going to do this morning?
Well, we've set up some training so that you can see how he would search a vehicle and find some ivory.
Is he going to get on with it now? Let's have a look how he does it.
Marley, where? Good boy. So he's searching along the seams of the vehicle to see if there's anything inside it.
So, Jane, tell us why ivory is so difficult to detect while he's doing that.
Well, there's not much scent off of the ivory. If you can imagine...
has he seen something, or...
Yes, he's sniffing the back seam there.
What are you looking
out for with him? So I'll open the vehicle up and just let him have a little look inside it.
Great.
I'm just seeing if increased body activity and getting excited, and his trained indication is just to freeze on the target scent.
Is he the only dog trained to do this? Because it's very specialised, isn't it?
Yes, he is at the moment. Yes, he is. Good
so
boy.
How did you train him?
Well, OK, can you see that?
Right, yes. We'll stop there.
He's really interested around that seam.
OK. So what happens next?
OK, well, I'm going to reward him, and then we'll get a colleague to come in and show you what's behind the panel there.
OK, so that would be your rollover.
Yes, my rollover, and then an officer would come in and actually look into the vehicle and see what we can find.
Let's take a look at that. So that is the ivory.
Well
done, Marley. Thank you very much, Jane. Let me bring you over here now, because we've got an array of some of the things that have been seized. Grant's here again. Grant, take us through some of the ivory and animals on the table here.
Yeah, some of the things. The ivory is a big problem for us at the moment. We've got elephants being poached at record levels in Africa, and some of that ivory does come through the UK. But also we're selling our historic ivory to China, the Far East, and people are shipping it out without the permits and committing offences. You've got a bear here. This was found in Terminal 3. Young boy sitting on top of a box, his dad pushing the trolley through, and he turned to the customs officer and said, "My dad's got a bear's head in the box." So find it every day.
So he shopped his dad. And just to say also, this was the most recent thing, wasn't it?
We
that's been
picked that
seized.
up
We'll
just
give them
yesterday.
a show of that because we are out of time. But it's fascinating stuff, Rav.
An appeal now for information after a huge stock of English wine was stolen from a warehouse in Sussex. I've got Sam Linter, who is head winemaker at Bolney, and DC Mark Butcher from Sussex Police, who's investigating. Sam, firstly, good morning. A lot of people won't realise that English wine is a huge growing business.
That's right, yes, it's been growing now for the last 40 years, but exponential growth over that time. But now our demand for English wine is actually outstripping what we're producing, so there's more and more vineyards planting on a regular basis.
OK, but this theft that hit you was huge, wasn't it? And it's really hit you hard.
It has, yeah. It was huge. They took 5,000 bottles from our warehouse of ours and a wine we make for a contract customer, and that's about £80,000 worth of wine. And this is wine that you know, we really care. It's a passion for us making wine. We put a lot of effort into making our wine, so for somebody just to come in and take it was really devastating for us.
Yeah, and Mark, you're investigating this one. How did they get in?
Well, they forced the lock to the main storage area. A large lorry would have been needed as approximately 5,000 bottles, 750 boxes of wine were taken. They needed to load the pallets up as it wasn't ready to go, so to speak. They had to load it up. It would have taken a number of people several hours to do
it's
this.
A huge job. Now, we don't have much time, but there are two crucial appeal points that I want to get across. One is a distinctive bottle, Sam. If we can just have a look at that. What's so distinctive about this one that's missing?
Well, what's on this bottle here is this gold leaf. It's very, very distinctive. And also it's...
Just turn it around
sorry,
slightly. Yeah, have a look at the gold leaf there.
Yeah, so this is a
very,
really
very
distinctive, yeah.
And another one here. If we have a look at this one, Mark, you're keen to show people this one. This is the label on the front. Have a look at that. And on the rear, this is only to be sold in Marks and Spencer's under the contract that you have, isn't it?
That's
so if
right.
this one, it's even on the label, if that's anywhere else, then that shouldn't be there, and you want to know from those people.
Absolutely.
OK, thank you both for joining us. So here, if you have been approached to buy any of this wine, please do get in touch, and the numbers are on your screen. Now, I've only just got time to give you a quick update about your calls now. A wanted face from last week has been arrested as a direct result of the programme. That's Anthony Peter Graham. He was wanted for questioning by detectives in Manchester in connection with fraud and money laundering. And we've had some good information in on that savage attack in Putney, where we showed you that yesterday, where the victim had part of his ear bitten off, you remember. We showed you these incredibly clear pictures of the man police want to speak to. Officers still want to hear from anyone else who can put a name to that face. Now, Sian, tell us, where are you going to be tomorrow?
Rav, tomorrow I am going to be in Essex. I hope that the sun will be shining because we're going to be on the seafront in Clacton. And I'm going to be meeting two super cops with amazing stories. One caught a criminal while running a marathon, and the other one is back in the saddle after being injured in a high-speed chase.
Thank you, Sian. Look forward to that. Now, there's lots more information about the cases featured in today's programme on our website, but for now, I'm going to leave you with another look at today's Wanted Faces. There they are. If you know where they are, then call us now. Thank you for watching. Until tomorrow, do take care. Bye-bye.